that's terrific. Oh, I've seen the computer-based test. It looks good. From my experience taking the IELTS test, paper-based versus computer-based test, it's much superior on the computer, especially the writing. The fact that you can get in there and edit your sentences and edit your writing without having to use an eraser or a pencil or something makes a huge difference to your writing. Okay, great. That's all working. Cool. Yash, okay, so somebody's just written in and said, okay, I took the mock test and I got my score. Am I ready to take the test? Worry less about the score. You should be looking at the particular feedback that we gave you, okay? And really focusing on that feedback. Really, our mock test is really, it gives a pretty accurate score, but really it's to be used as like a diagnostic test to find out what you're doing wrong, most of all, and also what you're doing right, because you want to continue to do what you're doing right. Okay, and this is in speaking. Yeah, so learn from the feedback that we give you. That's critical. Okay, let's get started. Now, the theme of today's class is not actually writing. We're actually going to do reading. The reason is I don't know, we scheduled the calendar wrong. I've been doing lots and lots of speaking and writing, speaking and writing, speaking and writing. If you did come here to learn about writing, you can go into the recorded live class section. You can see my masterclass in there on writing, OET writing. This one's going to be a sample class on reading, okay? So there we go, I've lost my cursor. So let's get started. Okay, cool. Hello, everybody. My name is Jay. I'm one of the expert OET teachers here at e2language.com. Welcome. This class is really set up for those of you who are free members who are thinking about upgrading your account. Or if you're on YouTube and you're preparing for the OET and you don't know how to prepare or who to prepare with, then this will give you some indication of what we do at E2 Language when we're preparing OET candidates, okay? If you're a paid member, no problem. You've got access to lots of live classes, so this will just be in addition to those. So what we're going to do today is we're going to look at what's coming up this week in the live classes on e2language.com. We're going to have a brief look at reading part A, B, and C. Okay, and do a couple of practice questions, but really this is a sample live class. It's not a full live class. And then I'll provide you with some study tips at the end, but it should be helpful. So really, the magic happens on e2language.com in the live classes. Yes, we've got practice materials and mock tests and stuff like that, but I think a lot of the learning takes place in those live classes that happen twice a day, every day with the teachers, okay? That's where you actually go through and do, listening part A practice with answer explanations, reading part B, reading part C, etc., and even writing as well. So in the calendar, in the website there, you'll see all these events. You can click on them and attend these events. They happen twice a day in 2 very different time zones. So it doesn't matter if you're in the UK or the US or India or Australia, you're going to find at least one of those times to be convenient for you. So yes, in October, we're going to have 2 to 3 live classes per day, 5 days per week. It's going to change slightly, but still lots and lots for you to do. Okay, let's get started by thinking about the reading section. The reading section overall is pretty straightforward because 2 of the subtests, you get 3 subtests. 2 of the subtests are multiple choice. So everybody knows how to do multiple choice questions. That's straightforward. There is, however, a good method that you can apply to multiple choice questions. Reading part A, however, is a very different type of reading test. It's unlike any of the other reading tests from other English language tests that you've done. Let's take a closer look at it. What we're going to do is focus on the task. We'll look at a method and then we'll do a little bit of practice. Okay, so this is what, this is what reading part A looks like. If I get out my little spotlight, what's going to happen on test day is you're going to have 2 sheets of paper, okay? You're going to have 1 sheet here and 1 sheet here, or booklets, I should say. One of them will contain texts, 4 texts, okay? Like text A, text B, text C, and text D, okay? It might be a couple of sheets of paper, okay? And they're kind of like half a page long. One of the texts might be some sort of definition, for example. One of the texts will always be some sort of graphical image, like a graph or a flow chart or something like that. So it's going to be more visual rather than text-based. Text C might be just a paragraph of text. Text D might be, I don't know, some dot points or something like that. Now they're all going to relate to a single topic. For example, headaches, okay? Text A, B, C, and D. So you've got that booklet there. Then with your other booklet, you've actually got the questions. And there are 3 types of questions, okay? There's matching questions, short answer questions, and sentence completion questions, okay? Now, all of this happens, you're going to get 20 questions to answer in just 15 minutes. So this subtest, reading part A, is a test of your speed reading skills, what they call expeditious reading or speed reading, really, speed reading. So that's in contrast to deep reading, where you have to really read something carefully and deeply. This is not that. This is very much like very quick skimming and scanning speed reading type of test. Okay, let's think about the method. How should you approach this on test day? First thing you should do is with your texts, before you even start looking at the questions, you should spend about 15 seconds on each text getting an idea of what it's about. In other words, speed reading it, and speed reading it for certain things. You want to look at the first text, you want to get an idea of what it's about overall. Because yes, it will be about a certain theme like headaches, but what is this text specifically about? And how do you do that in 15 seconds? You look at the heading, you look at subheadings, and you look at keywords, okay? Because maybe it'll be about medication. You go to the second text, text B. You quickly scan your eyes around that for 15 seconds. What's it about? Okay, it's some sort of flow chart about the onset of migraines or something like that, okay? So it differed from the first text. You go to the third text, it's about medications for headaches. You look at headings, subheadings, keywords. And then you go to the final text and you do the same thing. So all up, we've spent 1 minute right at the beginning familiarizing ourselves with those 4 texts. That's a critical way to start this test. And although seems like you might have just wasted 1 minute, you haven't, because it's really critical that you familiarize yourself with each of these texts, because each of the questions require you to go to a specific text to find a specific word or phrase or understand it, okay? So you should always start with the matching questions. The matching questions are first, and they're going to ask you a question. In which text can you find information about medications for headaches? Now, which one was that? Was it A, B, C, or D? Now we know that it was B, and all you write is B. Next question. In which text can you find information about whatever it was, the onset of migraines? Actually, B wasn't medications. Anyway, you get the point. You just simply write A, B, C, or D for each of the matching questions. And we'll do some in a second. So this is a little bit abstract at the moment, but we'll make it a bit more understandable. Then you have these ones here. You have short answer and sentence completion. These ones are not asking you in which text, like A, B, C, or D. These ones are asking you to, first of all, identify in which text, then locate an area of the text, a specific area, read carefully, and answer with a single word or a short phrase taken directly from the text itself. Okay, this is why, again, for short answer and sentence completion, take the word or phrase directly from the text and do not change it. All right, now that I've given you a bit of a confusing theoretical background of this, let's do a little bit of practice. First thing I want you to do in 15 seconds, as mentioned, is look at headings, subheadings, and keywords just in 15 seconds. Okay, let's go to the next one. I want you to speed read this. Headings, subheadings, keywords. Whoops. Okay, ready for the first matching questions? This should be very simple. So we're going to answer this question. In which text can you find information about how you might diagnose iron deficiency? And also, number 2, in which text can you find information about common causes of iron deficiency in children? Hopefully you don't need 30 seconds to do this. Good, Ivan's got it already. Dead simple. Good, nice, everybody got it. Very straightforward. These matching ones, sometimes the matching questions will be very simple. Like look at number 2 here. In which text can you find information about common causes of iron deficiency in children? I mean, it comes straight from the main heading here, okay? This one's a little bit more complex. You have to sort of dig into the language a little bit, okay? Sometimes it'll be simple, sometimes it'll be a little bit more complex, but overall, these matching questions are simple. Now we move into the short answer questions. Okay, now what we want to do is not just identify which text and write A, B, C, or D. We want to identify the text, find out where in the text we need to read very carefully, and we need to come up with a word or a short phrase to answer this question. Okay, so let's do number 3 and 4, see how you go. So Imran, check number 4, please. Good, Ifunanya, correct. I'm actually going to give you more time here because I'm just going to reset the clock. Hold on, I'm going to go back. Give you another 60 seconds to do 3 and 4. Ivan, please check both your answers. Jyotan, we're not just identifying the text, we want a specific word or short phrase from the text now. Good. Isa, nice. Ruzel. Good, Ruzel, nice. Okay, terrific. People are starting to get it now. Good. Okay, some of you are writing things that aren't in the text. Here's a critical key to get this right. Okay, you are taking the word from the text and not changing it at all. Okay, you're not transforming it or coming up with something or making it fit grammatically. No, you're finding a word or a phrase, using it exactly for the answer. Do not change it. Okay, if you change it, you will be wrong. And be very careful, because if it has an apostrophe or a dash or a certain way of spelling it, if you spell it wrong, it will also be considered wrong. Okay, cool. Anyway, that one gets a little bit harder, right? Let's notch it up even more. Let's do 5 and 6. I'll give you 2 minutes. With number 5, read this part very carefully. Isa and Paula have got it wrong. Very close, but wrong. Jotan's got it wrong. Ibra's got it wrong. No, Ibra got it right, sorry. Good, I'm gonna give you 1 more minute here. Hold on, take the timer back. 60 more seconds to do number 6. Okay, so that's just a very, we'll go through the answers in just a second, but that gives you a bit of an experience of what it's like to answer these reading part A questions. As we saw, the matching questions are relatively straightforward, and they're important to do first because they familiarize you with the text. Then we move into the short answer or gap fill, and that's where it starts to become more complicated. There are more steps here. We're not just identifying the text. We're identifying the text. Okay, it needs to be in the one about children, for example. We find the specific part of the text. We read very carefully, take that word, boom, pop it in. And remember, you're doing 20 questions in 15 minutes. So I was giving you 1 minute per question there. That's too much. Really, you should be answering these in 45 seconds. So this is why it's a real challenge. It requires practice. Okay, so let's go through the answers. So I think everyone got this right. This is very straightforward. So in which text can you find information about how you might diagnose iron deficiency? Well, that was in text A. Throughout text A, we had lots of things about diagnostics or indicators or blood testing, for example. This one was about diagnosing iron deficiency. Number 2 was common causes of iron deficiency in children. And obviously that came from text B, where it mentioned the words infants and children, and it's all about children. So that was straightforward. Hopefully you got 100% there. Then it got a bit trickier. So what type of protocols should be adhered to when increasing children's iron? Okay, so we're definitely in text B. What type of protocols? Here's a great keyword to search for. Okay, there's protocols there. What type of protocols should be adhered to when increasing children's iron? Pediatric specific protocols should be adhered to. Now there's going to be some, here it says should be followed. Okay, so what's the synonym here? Should be adhered to. So basically this will say the same thing as this. It might use synonyms though. Hopefully you got pediatric specific, and again we're copying it directly from the text, so we're going to even use the hyphen as well. Number 4, what is considered inadequate compared to breast milk or infant formula? Again, we know we're talking about children or infants here because we're talking about breast milk or infant formula. We're not even going to bother looking in text A. So what is considered inadequate? Well, it says cow's milk is low in iron compared with breast milk and infant formula. Is there anything about inadequacy there? Maybe it's not such a great question, but the answer there is cow's milk. Or even just the word cows would be fine. But try to get that apostrophe in there as well. Capital C would also be fine. Capital C or lowercase c doesn't really matter, but that's the answer there. Number 5, pediatricians typically provide up to something of elemental iron orally per day. Now look at this little bit here, up to. So here it says the usual pediatric oral iron dosage is 3 to 6 milligrams/kg. Okay. If you wrote 3 to 6 mg/kg, it would be wrong, because then it would say pediatricians typically provide up to 3 to 6 /. The reason why I put this in there is I just wanted to give you a bit of an experience about how you can get a question wrong by missing a little bit of information from the question prompt, okay? This is just practice, but they will often, OET will often do that. They'll want you to just write one specific little part of that, not the whole thing. And so if you wrote 3 to 6, it would be considered incorrect, for example. And again, we want to copy it exactly like this, 6 mg/kg, done. And what about this one? This one's interesting. Referring a patient with low iron to a something is frequently needed. Maybe you wrote specialist pediatrician. Let's read this. If oral iron is ineffective or not tolerated, then consider other causes of anemia. Referral to a specialist pediatrician and use of IV iron. Referring a patient with low iron to a something is frequently needed. Is there anything written in here about being frequently needed? No. It's close. Now let's read this one. Identifying the cause of iron deficiency is crucial. Referral to a gastroenterologist is often required. Okay, referring a patient with low iron to a something is frequently needed, is often required. This is the correct answer here. This was a very good distractor that lots of people would have chosen but got it wrong. This one is more correct. This one's not quite correct. If it's not quite correct, if there's a word in there that doesn't actually appear in here in any way, then don't choose that. Look elsewhere. Anyway, again, I hope that was a good little lesson for you. Okay. Okay, let me answer a few questions here. First one is from Juan Pablo. Jay, sorry to bother you. Wasn't this supposed to be a writing class? Yes, but I've done, over the last 2 weeks, I think I've done like 3 writing classes. So we hadn't done a reading one. It was programmed in incorrectly. If you are interested in the writing ones, I think there's definitely some stuff on YouTube. If you do sign up and become a paid member, you get the masterclass recordings. I think there's a workshop on this Friday about writing, etc. So we're just going to focus on reading for this one. Anas, what is the answer for question 1? B. Ibra, one question, please. I practice tests on E2 language. They're very strict on short answers and sentence completion questions. Even single space or an article like or that makes it wrong. Will it be wrong on real OET test? With spaces, no. Okay, will it be wrong? Here's a good question. Will it be wrong if I use an article like or the when it's not needed? Okay. Let's say the answer is young children. Let's say for whatever reason you need to write in young children is the answer here, but you write the young children and it doesn't have an article. It will be considered wrong. Again, you're copying directly from the text. If there's an article already there, here's a perfect one actually, gastroenterologist. Here we did not need to include an article, gastroenterologist, because the article is already there. So you need to be careful with that. Do you include the little bit of information like the article or not? It depends on the question itself. But yeah, it's strict. It's strict. So make sure you read it. And it should make sense grammatically. That final sentence should make sense grammatically. Anyway, this is a tricky little test, but after you've practiced it a few times, it can be once you understand how to do it, you can speed up and it actually becomes quite fun. It's like a bit of a game. Cool. Now, if you haven't taken the OET yet, or you have taken the OET but you've been unsuccessful and you don't really know why, you might want to get started with our OET mini mock test. This really is a perfect place to start because you'll do like a 2-hour exam on the computer, including the writing. Then you'll take a one-on-one speaking mock test with our teacher, one of our expert teachers. You're going to get a detailed report card, not just at this level, but you'll actually be able to drill down into each section of the test and look at your scores for listening part A, listening part B. You can see exactly what you've done right and wrong. And more importantly, or just as importantly, you're going to get feedback on your writing and speaking from our teachers, like a report card. And again, you'll be able to identify what you're doing well, what you're not doing well. So it'll help you to rapidly improve. I couldn't recommend this highly enough. I've been doing the speaking mock test recently and a bit of the writing marking. You get super detailed feedback. So if you haven't taken the OET test before, this is a great place to sort of understand it, get a feel for it, and get feedback. If you have and you were unsuccessful, but you don't really know why, it might be something silly that you're not aware of. This will make you aware of it. Cool. Okay, let's have a look at reading part B. This one is much more straightforward. It's what happens in reading part B is you get 6 short multiple choice questions. Okay. Each has their own little text here. The texts are quite short. This one, in fact, is quite a long one. You get 3 answer options. Pretty straightforward. Mind you, these are pretty tricky reading texts, okay? The method is like this. Here's how the method should work. When you approach any multiple choice reading question, you should always start with the question prompt or the question stem. Negative effects from prescription drugs are often. Then what you want to do is skip the answer options because they'll only confuse you. You want to go straight to the text itself and read the text. After you've read the text and you've really understood the text, because that is ultimately what this is about, each of these reading questions ask you to fully understand that text. And if you've fully understood that text, you can then go back to the answer options, eliminate incorrect ones, and select the one correct one. 2 of those answer options will be contradictory to the text or not have enough information to say or just not mention it at all, okay? One of them will say the same thing as part of the text, but just in different words. So it is in fact correct, okay? Let's try this. Oops. I'll give you 90 seconds to do this question here using that method. Okay, just let's think about time management here. So you get reading part B, 6 short multiple choice questions, and reading part C, which actually has 16 multiple choice questions, in 45 minutes. So with reading part B, you want to be answering these in about 90 seconds, okay? You do not want to be spending 2, 3, 4 minutes on each of these. Bad idea, because that will detract time from your reading part C, which is arguably more complex. So about 90 seconds per reading part B, and then move on. That's plenty of time to read the text carefully, eliminate incorrect answer options, and select the correct one. Okay, let's take a closer look at this. So let's see if we eliminate this or select it. So negative effects from prescription drugs are often avoidable in young people. It says here, adverse effects are thought to be preventable in almost 90% of cases in the elderly, compared with only 24% in younger patients. Okay, so what do you think? Yes or no? Put it into the chat, please. Yes or no? Say yes if it says the same thing. Say no if it's contradictory. Okay, almost everybody's putting no. I agree. This says negative effects from prescription drugs are often avoidable or preventable in the elderly, not young people. That's just contradictory, with only 24% in younger patients. So let's try this one. Negative effects from prescription drugs are often unpredictable in the elderly. Here it says in the elderly, there are a number of common reasons for adverse drug effects. What do you think? Yes or no? It has to really say the same thing, by the way. Cool. All right. Ivan says no, it's preventable. Yeah, good one. Unpredictable's just not quite right, right? It's just not really saying that. So let's try this one. Negative effects from prescription drugs are often caused by miscommunication. Here it says many of these reasons involve inadequate communication with patients. Now, inadequate, actually someone's pointed this out. Is that really a great question? This is the best option we have for sure. Inadequate communication, miscommunication. You know what? Wait, I'm going to change this because I think whoever pointed that out is actually correct. I think it was Pooja said this. Come on, computer. By the way, this is why it's so hard to write good OET materials. Here we go. What about this one? Try this on for size. Caused by lack of communication. There we go. That's better. If I'll leave that one there now. In fact, I'm going to change that. That's better. That's a much better question. But anyway, what we could see was that A and B were, well, A was contradictory. B just wasn't really right. C was much closer. And now, in fact, it's spot on. It's basically saying the same thing as the text in different words, okay? So hopefully on test day, 2 of them you're going to find to be just wrong, and 1 you'll be like, yeah, that makes sense. That says pretty much the same thing, but in different words. Okay, cool. Let's push on. Let's have a look at reading part C, and let's first talk about the text. Actually, let's stop here. If you have any questions about reading part B, can you please pop them into the chat now? Okay, so Dr. Sumreen Kazi's asked, do we get time before the commencement of the reading test, like in the listening test? No, so in the listening test, you're right. You get, in listening part C, you get 90 seconds before the audio starts playing for you to check the questions out. In the reading test, you don't. It's like they say, you can begin now, or you can open your test. I forget what the exact wording is, but you open your test booklet. That's it, time started. how to improve reading part B and reading part C. Well, I mean, there's two things to improve here. One is ultimately, this is an English language test. And so you have to ask yourself, do you have those fundamental skills? Do you have a wide range of vocabulary in English that comes to you immediately? Like, you know, you're reading not through your first language, but you're reading in English and the meaning is immediately apparent to you. Okay. And the grammar as well also has meaning as well. So if you have those fundamental skills, then you've got to look at the second part of preparation here, which is really test preparation. This is where you start to apply the methods to practice questions, and more so in speaking and writing, you get feedback on how you're going. So fundamental skill building and then test preparation. If you're a native English speaker or your English is excellent, you don't need the fundamental skill building, you just need test prep. But they're the two fundamental things. One last question here. This is for writing, which is, can we use cursive writing? Yes, I believe so. Your writing just has to be legible. Okay, let's think about reading part C now. Okay, it's a little bit different than reading part B. It still is multiple choice questions, but instead of getting 6 separate texts, you get one full text, a much longer reading passage with 8 questions, and then you get another text on a different topic with 8 questions. Okay, so quite a bit of reading goes on here, and again, it's deep reading this time. And for each multiple choice question, you'll get 4 answer options, not 3. The good news about reading part C is it tells you which paragraph you should be reading in. Okay, so it'll say in paragraph 1, blah, 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 blah. And so you know you'll be reading in this paragraph here for the answer. In paragraph 2, da, 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 da. Sometimes it'll say something like, what does Martin Scorsese believe about blah, 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 blah. And you'll see in paragraph 3, it will just have his name there. So it should be really clear which paragraph you're reading. Yes, but 8 questions and then another set of 8 questions. What are the functions? Here's a good thing to think about. What are they getting you to read for? Well, in reading part B, they'll get you to read for overall meaning or gist, like there'll be an email. What is the email about? Okay, so there's gist type questions. There's questions of purpose, like why did, whatever it is, why do you have to not move the bed, whatever the question is. So questions of purpose. There'll be questions that ask you to read for details. Okay, so it's for specific detail. So not overall gist, but a specific part. And in reading part C, there's actually additional types of questions where they get you to read for opinions, okay, and attitudes. What does the author believe about this? Okay, and then you'll have 4 answer options. Only one will be correct. Okay, so how do we approach this type of question on test day? Whoa, sorry. It's very similar, very similar. What you want to do is read the question prompt. In paragraph 1, what does the author believe about headaches, whatever. Forget the answer options for the time being because they'll just distract you and confuse you. Read this very carefully. What does she think about headaches? What does she think about headaches? Read very carefully. You've got some idea of it now. Then you go to the answer options and you eliminate until you find the correct one. Same thing. Paragraph 2, why does she, whatever. And then you go here and you read very carefully. Why does she, why does she, why does she? Eliminate, eliminate, got it. That's how you move through reading part C. It's much easier said than done. Let's do this question here. I'll give you a little bit longer than 90 seconds. I'll start the clock in about 30 seconds, okay? Okay, you can begin this question now. Okay, I'm going to start the clock. So you have 90 seconds. All right, how did you go there? That was about 2 minutes. That's about how long you want to spend on these questions. Look, this one can be really confusing, but anyway, let me take you through this one here. Let me get out my little drawing tool. Okay, so we're going to follow the same methodology here. What we're going to do is go through each. Actually, let's go back. Let's read the entire paragraph first. Okay, sorry to do this to you, but let's read this from the beginning. So the overall topic is difficult to treat depression. Depression remains a leading cause of distress and disability worldwide. In one country's survey of health and well-being in 2007, 7.2% of people surveyed had experienced a mood affective disorder in the previous 12 months. Those affected reported a mean of 11.7 disability days when they were completely unable to carry out or had to cut down on their usual activities owing to their health in the previous 4 weeks. There was also evidence of substantial undertreatment. Amazingly, only 35% of people with a mental health problem had a mental health consultation during the previous 12 months. 3/4 of those seeking help saw a GP. In the 2015-16 follow-up survey, not much had changed. Again, there was evidence of substantial unmet need. And again, GPs were the health professionals most likely to be providing care. Cool. So you got plenty of time to read that carefully. Now we're going to go through and eliminate. So let's try this one. What point does the writer make about the treatment of depression? Okay, so we're reading for a specific detail here. 75% of depression sufferers visit their GP for treatment. Yes or no? Look at that one and then look at the text and tell me yes or no. Look at this pronoun here, 3/4 of those. So 75% of those seeking help. So 35% of people actually went to seek help, but only 3/4 of those saw a GP. So that would be considered incorrect. So we're going to move on. This is where English language tests can be very frustrating. Please, this video will be on YouTube for a little while longer. So you really want to pause this and read it until you get it. It's almost like a little logic game here. 75% of depression sufferers visit their GP for treatment. It says here, only 35% of people with a mental health problem had a mental health consultation during the previous 12 months. 3/4 of those 35%. So what's 75% of 35% is not 75%. Saw a GP. So that's wrong. Let's try this one. GPs struggle to meet the needs of patients with depressions. Yes or no? Try B. Whose needs are unmet here? The GPs or the patients? Does it say anything about GPs struggling to meet the needs of patients with depression? No, the subject of this is about patients' needs being unmet. Correct. Nice, Maha, I agree. So B is wrong. It's a misreading. Here's an interesting way to think about how they write these questions. Okay, so you've got your text there, right? What's a way that I could misread this text or misunderstand it? And that will become one of the answer options. It's a misunderstanding or a misreading of the text, okay? And that becomes a wrong answer option. A misunderstanding or a misreading of the text becomes an incorrect answer option, okay? So what you're doing here is you're thinking, okay, no, this is a misreading or a misinterpretation or a misunderstanding of the text, which B certainly is. So it's incorrect. We're not going to choose that one. Okay, let's try this one on for size. So treatment for depression takes an average of 11.7 days a month. Do those two say the same thing? Yes or no? It's good. It's not even here. It's not even talking about treatment of depression. It's talking about disability days where people need to take a day off work, for example, because their depression's too much. So in fact, this is a very much a misinterpretation of the text. This is a very good example of an incorrect or misreading. Cool, let's try D. Hopefully this is right. Most people with depression symptoms never receive help. Only 35% of people with a mental health problem had a mental health consultation during the previous 12 months. Most, yes. Do these two say the same thing? Ivan says yes, exclamation mark. Yes, nice, good. If you're a maths and science person, English will just, or language will just frustrate you because it's just not clear cut. When you do a maths test, well, certainly not, maybe not at the higher levels of maths, but certainly at the lower levels of maths, it's right or wrong, right? Here, it's right or wrong, but it's right or wrong in a much blurrier way. It's just not as clear or distinct, is it? But at some point, you should get that feeling of, yes, that makes sense. You know, there's that, that makes sense. That one says the same thing. Yes. All the other ones, you should have gone like, confused you and gone, not quite right, not quite right, not quite right. Okay, D is right. Correct. Yeah, 65% of people never receive help. Most people with depression symptoms never receive help. Cool. Good. Okay, so if you're watching this on YouTube, I want you to do two things. One, click that subscribe button because we do release really good videos and it's nice if you're just sitting at home doing nothing, you get a little alert so you can watch the YouTube video. So do click that subscribe button. The other thing you should do though, if you're on YouTube, is come across and sign up for free at e2language.com because you'll get some sample classes for free. You get one full practice test for free. But once you've become a free member, you then might want to think about upgrading to the mini mock test, to the Express Plus package, which gives you 25 live classes, the mock test, 6 full practice tests, etc. There's heaps of other stuff going on as well. Cool. Okay, here's some study tips for you. Study the OET material carefully. That is, yes, there are 6 full practice tests on e2language.com. Don't just go really quickly through it. As we saw today, the benefit that you'll get from the practice material is to study it very carefully. And if you get a question wrong, find out why and stay there until you get that aha moment of, oh, right, I see why A and B are wrong and C is correct now. That's how you should be preparing for with this material, not just going, I think it's B. Oh, B's wrong. Oh, well, let's try the next one. That's not good use of the material. Material is there, but it's up to you to apply yourself to it. Of course, attend as many live classes as you can because they're just good motivation. They're fun. The teachers are there pushing you along. Make sure you understand the methods before you attend the live classes, and especially before you attend or take the mini mock test. How long should you prepare for your OET? It depends on your English level. If your English is already excellent, it'll only take you a couple of weeks to prepare. If your English is struggling, you're going to have to prepare for longer because you're going to have to build vocab and grammar and pronunciation along the way. If you don't know your level, if you're unsure, take the mini mock test. It's money well spent. There it is there, the mini mock test. And you can also take one-on-one tutorials. So in some of the packages in bronze, silver, and gold, you can take one-on-one tutorials on speaking or listening or writing or reading. These are very intense interactions with the teacher that really help you out. Cool. All right. Let me answer a few last questions here. Excuse me. Saeed Sahal, how can I avoid the distractors in reading part B and part C? Just like what we've done today, there will be distractors. So let's say there are 4 answer options in reading part C. 3 are going to be plausible misreadings of the text. That is, they're misinterpretations. They are the distractors. You need to read that text and understand it and say, that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong, that's right. I like this one. Dr. Sumrain, can I answer 2 questions if I have a doubt? Like, can I circle A and B? No, you'll get the whole thing wrong. You can only select one. Can you tell me about the writing subscription of E2? Yeah, so what you can do in your bronze or silver or gold is submit writing assessments through to the teacher and then take tutorials on them. This is a very in-depth way to improve your writing. Or we have writing bundles for sale where you get, they're not live one-on-one teacher feedback, but the teacher will actually grade your letter, send it back to you with feedback. Do we have a mock test for reading in E2 language? Well, we have the mock test. It's listening, reading, writing, speaking. Ivan, when should we start our mock test? At the beginning of our study or a few weeks after several practice? Yeah, I'd probably wait until you learn the methods and you're feeling quite comfortable with each subtest, then do the mock test. It might only take you a week to learn the methods. How do we know if we've written the right word count in writing between 180 to 200 words? OET are very flexible with the word count. How you know if you've written the correct number of words is you've included relevant information and you've excluded irrelevant information. Then you're going to naturally be around the 180 to 200 words. On exam day, can we underline the text or will be given scratch paper? You can underline the text, that's fine. In writing, in the case notes, you can underline them. Rubelin, Jay, in writing, are we going to type in the computer or write on paper? I think most of you will be taking the paper-based exam. The computer-based exam is very new, but please check if you're taking paper-based or computer-based test. Anas, is the answer usually coming after words like however, therefore? No, you can't assume that at all. Jotan, is nursing doctor writing the same? No, they're profession specific. Doctors get doctors writing, nurses get nurses case notes rather. Dentists get dentist case notes, etc. Cool. All right, I'm going to leave it there. It's nearly 1 hour. Thanks for coming along. If you were after the writing, there's a writing masterclass on e2language.com. You may have to upgrade your account to access it, but honestly, money well spent. Cool. Good luck with your preparation. I will see you soon. Thank you.